A reading from the Gospel of Truth. This ignorance of the Father brought about terror and fear, and terror became dense like a fog that no one was able to see. Because of this, error became strong, but it worked on its material substance vainly, because it did not know the truth. It was in a fashioned form while it was preparing, in power and in beauty, the equivalent of truth. This, then, was not a humiliation for him, that illimitable, inconceivable one. For they were as nothing, this terror and this forgetfulness and this figure of falsehood, whereas this established truth is unchanging, unperturbed, and completely beautiful. For this reason, do not take error too seriously. Thus, since it had no root, it was in a fog as regards the Father, engaged in preparing works and forgetfulness and fears in order, by these means, to beguile those of the middle and to take them captive. The forgetfulness of error was not revealed. It did not become light beside the Father. Forgetfulness did not exist with the Father, although it existed because of him. What exists in him is knowledge, which was revealed so that forgetfulness might be destroyed and that they might know the Father, since forgetfulness existed because they did not know the Father. If they then come to know the Father, from that moment on, forgetfulness will cease to exist. That is the gospel of him whom they seek, which he has revealed to the perfect through the mercies of the Father as a hidden mystery, Jesus the Christ. Through him, he enlightened those who were in darkness because of forgetfulness. He enlightened them and gave them a path, and that path is the truth which he taught them. For this reason, error was angry with him, so it persecuted him. It was distressed by him, so it made him powerless. He was nailed to a cross. He became a fruit of the knowledge of the Father. He did not, however, destroy them because they ate of it. He rather caused those who ate of it to be joyful because of this discovery. It's Good Friday, everyone. And today we're going to be talking about the crucifixion of Jesus as we walk together down Creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan Druid and priest to Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan Druid and sous chef to the doctrine.
Today, we are going to be discussing the crucifixion of Christ, and you might have noticed that we started with a passage many of you may not be familiar with. That is a translation of the Gospel of Truth, translated by Robert M. Grant. I did change one word because I thought material was easier to understand than Heilig, even though they mean the exact same thing. I just, the translator sometimes, right? They do. They love their words. And I really want to take a look at the crucifixion through a very different lens, because as we reject the idea and the doctrine of original sin, we also reject the idea of a God that had to commit human sacrifice in order to change his mind. Because, that's a devil if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
So we are going to be talking about the crucifixion, what the crucifixion means, and how it impacts us even to this day. But before we get into all that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be in whatever app you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, except during Holy Week, where we have done a new episode from Palm Sunday all the way through to Easter Sunday, so you're getting extra this week, and you don't want to miss a thing. So let's just get into it, shall we?
I figured I'll start with the elephant in the room. Some of the problems I used to have with the crucifixion, this whole demanded sacrifice from God, when 500 years before the event of the Judean faith, basically, and the prophets said, hey, let's stop animal sacrifice.
I don't know if we can really say stop sacrifice, but God does say through the prophets, I prefer your devotion to your sacrifices. And why are you bringing me sacrifices when you cannot love and take care of each other? There is a lot of, you're doing this very performative sacrifice thing and you're not actually taking care of each other like I told you to.
And also growing up, there was all this teaching like this is Abraham's sacrifice up on the mountain, and this is just a mirroring of that. And I'm just like, but Abraham was spared having to sacrifice his child. Why didn't God send a lamb and to spare sacrificing his own child? Like it bothered me. It always bothered me that weird attempt at connecting these things when it just didn't apply at all. And then of course later reading some of the midrashim around this demanded sacrifice in that sense. And reading Gospel Truth and other theologians bring forward this as an edict, a sign, literally hammered to the cross. That at least makes more sense.
Yeah, Pelagius' understanding of this is that it is a sacrifice, but it is one of giving your life when people will not listen to the truth. It's a martyrdom, not a blood sacrifice. You can see this throughout the early church, this idea of it being the apex of martyrdom rather than this angry blood sacrifice. Now, Paul is the issue here in that Paul is writing to a lot of audiences that were not Jewish and so did not quite get the language in which he's speaking, because Paul constantly refers to Jesus as the Passover lamb. Now, the Passover lamb was the one whose blood was put on the doorpost and on the lintel so that the angel of death would pass over them. This is not the same as the sacrifices that happened on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, 6 months later or earlier, depending on your point of view. And a lot of people conflate the sacrifice of the Passover lamb, that the plagues and all of the darkness would pass over the people, with the Lamb of Atonement that is offered at Yom Kippur on the Day of Atonement. These are two very different sacrifices, and they get conflated in people's minds because the temple was destroyed shortly after Paul wrote. Most of the people that he was writing to did not go to the Jerusalem temple, did not practice that form of temple Judaism, and did not understand what he was saying.
And for some of those audiences too, like, it's a sacrifice at the temple. It's a sacrifice at the temple. It's all the same to them. They probably didn't see the difference and understand the nuance.
Also, Paul does use language like it was I'm not going to use many of the words that are translated in the English, and I'm not going to start throwing Greek at you, don't worry. But the word that he uses is ransom.
Mhm.
That someone is being held captive and you're basically paying a ransom to get them back. Now, my problem with attributing these passages to God is you're saying that God was holding people ransom, and so God had to incarnate as his own son and pay the price to himself to wait, okay. So I take somebody captive and then I send a ransom note to myself, and then I have to go and pay the ransom to wait.
I step back and I go, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories in my days, and that one is the most complicated of them and convoluted and just seems so unlikely.
So the question is, who was Jesus ransoming folk from? Now, the Orthodox Church, by Orthodox at this point, remember that's both the Catholics and the Orthodox, they hadn't split yet. The Catholic Church splits from the Orthodox Church, not the other way around, no matter how people want to spin it. So the Orthodox Church at this point in history basically says, okay, it doesn't make sense that God would be ransoming from God because that's weird. God can just change his mind. He can just say a thing that doesn't make sense. So this is where the Orthodox Church starts putting into this idea of this very powerful devil starts to come onto the scene, that Jesus is somehow paying a ransom to the devil with his own life. And again, this doesn't quite make sense to me.
It's at that point where I step back and I go, makes more sense that would be Romans, which once again, the Orthodox Church at that time would not want to go against Rome or upset Rome because they're finally starting to get a lot of power from Rome and authority, ability to spread and be more popular. So they wouldn't want to say that. But I really feel like the truth is that it's Rome. You know, we already have a long history of Rome going, oh, you're rising up in rebellion, we'll just kill you all.
So literally, this kind of works because when the Romans would siege a town, they would have drummers beat the drums and they would call out the gods of the city. Come and join us so that you'll be on the right side. Come and join us. We're going to destroy the city and kill everybody in there, and what's the good of being a god without worshippers. Come over here, come over to ours. This was done both as a form of kind of spiritual warfare, in that it's reinforcing in the minds of their soldiers that our gods are superior to those gods. It is a form of spiritual warfare in that it is going to plant seeds of doubt. Like, what if our God actually joins them against us, right? It's a wonderful bit of propaganda. And living in a kingdom that is completely sieged by Rome, under Roman rule, paying taxes to Rome, all of that, there is a way to read the story as that is, yes, that's who the ransom is being paid to, that he paid the price to Rome so that both the movement could end and so that the true kingdom could be spread out on the world. Pelagius and Valentinus, who is thought to have been the writer of the Gospel of Truth, would say, as you heard in the passage that I read at the beginning, this payment, this ransom, was actually paid to darkness itself, to forgetfulness. You forgot who this person was. What better way to show that ignorance than, oh no, you got me, I'm dead. No, you can't kill life itself. Bye. And that idea of, oh, you think you have power over me, you think that you understand everything that's going on. To me, this feeds into the idea that we find in the biblical wisdom tradition that we see echoed in the teachings of Jesus and in the teachings of Paul, that those who consider themselves wise will be made foolish, that those who consider themselves greater or higher or better than others will be brought down. That is what we are seeing here in these stories of the crucifixion and later the resurrection, is that, oh no, you captured me, you have all of this power over me. All you have to do is say the right words. Just say the right words. We see the temptations in the trial leading up to this. Who do you say that you are? Who are you? Are you the Messiah? Are you the King of Kings? Are you God? I am whatever you say I am, right? There is this kind of capitulation to the ignorance that pervades our minds, this forgetting that we are a part of this one life, that we are a part of this innate interconnectedness and inner being that makes us who and what we are. There is this forgetfulness that is dense like a fog, that causes us to feel alone, isolated, and breeds fear in us. You can see all of that come to bear, that not only do they accuse him of being a king, but then they beat him, they scourge him, they then crown him with thorns and carry him off to be crucified. And over his head, they put a sign that says, Jesus, King of the Jews. Now, this is important. We may actually have the titular, the actual signpost that was made over his head. There has been a piece of wood with this inscribed on it in Latin, Greek, and we can see a little bit of Aramaic at the bottom, that has claimed to be the actual titulus. Carbon dating actually checks out to the 1st century, and the writing on it, the shape of letters, the way letters are written, actually match to the way that they would have been written in the 1st century. So we may actually have, this may be the one surviving element of historical artifact of this moment of history.
Which, let me say on a little side note, it's also really powerful. You could read it as a very powerful message as well, because if you ascribe to the crucifixion being the sign, this edict posted, and the literal edict, the sign posted, is the part of the whole thing that survives along with the Shrabatorn to the modern day.
That's a bit more controversial there. But it's like whether or not they actually found any of the crosses. That is a very controversial topic, because if the titulus is real, then it's possible they actually found one of the crosses because it was supposed to have been found with it. So the signpost was, according to the story that we have, was found with the 3 crosses that were dug up.
Sorry, I often dismiss the found cross part, because it's like, here's this tiny little splinter.
Oh yeah, they then tore these apart. Most of those splinters have been shown to be false. I was just saying, she may have actually found something if this plaque was actually found with crosses. If the full story is true, and this does look like it's from the 1st century. But anyway, the digression. The important thing about this is the plaque that was placed over the head of a crucified person, which was a not uncommon practice in Rome, was the crime that they were accused of. So by writing Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, on here, that is not just mocking him, which I think a lot of people think that is just mocking him. That is actually the statement of why he is being crucified, that this man has been condemned because he claimed to be a king. And as the wonderful song from Jesus Christ Superstar has the crowd shout back, we have no king but Caesar. Because, yeah, you weren't supposed to have a king that wasn't Caesar, or somebody that Caesar had officially endorsed and supported as a vassal king. This moment of abject trauma for the church. And remember, like we've said it a whole bunch of times, a lot of movements do not survive this. This is really the breaking point for most movements. There isn't a surviving religion of any of the messiahs of this time period other than Jesus and John. Those two, their movement survived. They were both martyred. Going forward in history, we've had a lot of contenders to this crown, and very few of those movements survive the eventual mortality of their leaders, no matter how that end comes. And so something special happens here. We have recorded in the book of Acts an argument with Gamaliel, Gamaliel is very important in the story because he was a student of Hillel, who was the founder of the Pharisaic movement. And Gamaliel was a teacher of Paul's. So just to connect you into history here, when they are asking, what should we do about this new Jesus movement? And he answers very logically, don't do anything. Look, if God's behind them, they will survive. If God is not behind them, they will die out. Just don't worry about it. And that sentiment was very real because so many contenders had come and gone. Just a couple centuries before, Judas Maccabee and the whole Maccabean revolt, that was a messianic movement. And yeah, it gave the festival of Hanukkah, but no one is lighting candles and praying to any of the Maccabees, because we got to give you an idea how that book ends. We get our word macabre from Maccabee. Macabre means like what happened to the Maccabees. So did not end well for anyone in that story. But when we're looking at this moment and thinking about all of the forces that are coming crashing together, and when you take this together with the theory that I have been espousing this entire Holy Week, that I believe that Jesus set this up. Such a confluence of events have to happen to make this day possible, and to have it be remembered some almost 2,000 years later. Because so many people were crucified. Most people can name two, because you got Jesus and you've got all of the people that stood up and said that they were Spartacus. So regardless of what you think metaphysically, spiritually, or whatever happened here, this is a profound moment. For those like me who have faith in this moment, who have faith in this Jesus, and who believe this Jesus to be the Christ, what you have in this moment is God standing between all of the opposites, between faith and doubt, between life and death, between suffering and paradise. Remember what Jesus said on the cross to the thief? Tonight you will be with me in paradise. He says this after being stitched with nails through his wrists and feet, with a crown of thorns in his head, suffocating. That's because you don't die from blood loss on the cross, you die from suffocation. All of the opposites are here. When we read the story, we see this man who is about to be nailed to a cross, and the words out of his mouth are, "Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing." Do you see the statement of intent here? Do you see how the early church thought that this was about ignorance? They do not know. They do not know. And that's the forgiveness that I see here at the cross. That is the salvation that I see here. This is the price paid for our ignorance, that, like the Gospel of John starts, God was the light of all the people, and that light walked among us, and we knew him not. That's how the Gospel of John starts. We were ignorant. We did not know. We were walking in that shadow of forgetfulness. I love how Douglas Adams in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy at the very beginning of the first book says, approximately 2,000 years after a man was nailed to a tree for saying, wouldn't it be great if we were all nice to each other? And yeah, that sums up Jesus' teachings, right? A new commandment I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you. What are the two greatest commandments? That you love God with all your heart, mind, and spirit, and that you love your neighbor as yourself. These are the three commandments Jesus gives us in the Gospels, and they're all about love. John would later go on to say, if you do not know love, you do not know God. That's pretty bold. And that's what we see demonstrated here. That's the ransom that we see getting paid. We forget. We forget so easily how interconnected we are to one another, to the world, that the separatedness that we see is such an illusion. There are billions of atoms between us and everything around us. Our eyes just don't see them. Nothing is alone. Nothing is isolated. Even in the vacuum of space, there are particles out there floating around. Space itself isn't empty. We are all interconnected physically, spiritually. We'll use a big word because I can't help myself. Ontologically, our very being is, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, an interbeing where we exist in and with one another. What happens to one of us affects all of us. And when we do not understand that, we harm everyone. That's why Paul would later say that when we suffer, we are perfecting what was lacking in the sacrifice of Christ. You don't hear that passage really taught in a lot of churches, right? Because the one imperfect sacrifice, right? But Paul says all of our sufferings are on that cross too. That's us picking up our cross and following him. Every time we suffer, all of our pains, they're just making perfect that sacrifice, because we are all nailed to that cross. And we're all nailed to that cross through our ignorance. We don't know all the cures for all the diseases. We don't know how to fix all of our maladies. We don't know how to tell billionaires that they shouldn't be billionaires. I'm sorry, I'm going to get down off the soapbox now.
My turn? Yeah, it is literally that repeated ignorance over and over again. So instead of helping the stranger amongst us, arrest them and throw them into a prison in a foreign land, and there's more suffering added, another person put up on that cross because of the ignorance, because so many people are ignorant and aren't able to just be kind to one another and just remember the gospel.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
Like you said, because of the greed of a few wanting to amass more than they could ever use or have use of in their life, others have to go without and suffer.
I think of San Louis de Montfort and the leper. One day he was walking through town and saw a leper sick and dying on the side of the street. He picked him up, and remember, he was an ox of a man. He was 6'1" to 6'4". And this would have been in the 1700s. Like, he was a giant ox of a man. He picked him up and he kicked in the doors to the church. He walked down the center aisle and laid that man on the altar. And when the other priests ran towards him to stop him, he shouted loudly and boldly, "Make way for Jesus Christ." He laid that man on the altar, got him food, got him water, got him clothes, treated his wounds to the best of his ability, and was with him till the moment he died. Most people wouldn't touch a leper out of fear that they would contract the disease. That is the bold faith that we are called to.
Yeah.
And we need it now more than ever. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I hope that it has meant something to you. If you want to read the full version of the Gospel of Truth that I was reading from, it's available over on the Gnostic Archive. If you search Gospel of Truth, it should come up real easy for you. And they actually have a couple different translations of it. It's an interesting read. It's a book that I read every Easter because it resonates with me deep down in my soul. I don't agree with the Valentinians on everything, but something about this book just speaks to me. Let us know what your thoughts are about the sacrifice at the crucifixion. What do you think happened? What do you think's going on? How does it matter to you today? Let us know down in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, or CreationSpirituality, you leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they don't let us know. So leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to CreationsPaths.com, click on chat, and you can leave a message there. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support me on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both. You can also support us using the Cash App, hashtag CreationsPaths. Thank you to everybody who does that. It really means the world to us. And if you don't have any money right now, or you're not sure that we're the kind of people that you want to give your hard-earned treasure to, that's perfectly all right. But if we've ever said or done anything that's helped you out, please share that with others, because it helps us out more than you know. And as we are heading out today, we are ending every episode this Holy Week with a prayer to the Blessed Mother. O Holy Mother Mary, when we read the tragic tale of the crucifixion in St. Mary Agretta's mystical city of God, we see the pain and torment that you felt in your heart as you watched your son dying on the cross, as you felt your soul being crushed by all the pain and misery that he endured, and you felt as though you were going to wink out of existence itself and cease to be. And in that moment of existential crisis, you knew that we are all one, as Christ himself prayed, that we may be one in him, that we may be one in the Father, that we may be one with one another, that we will all know the oneness of this great life. Help us, O Holy Mother, to awaken to that truth and find our way back into the arms of the Holy. Amen.
Amen.